Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us here on the WriteHer podcast, a series that brings two women together to share their thoughts about all things writing, public relations, journalism, and all things in between. My name is Jillian Brander, social media strategist, content creator, and lifelong learner. And I'm here with Kathy Douglas. Go ahead, Kathy.
Hi, I'm Kathy Douglas. I own Kathy Douglas Communications Incorporated in Santa Ana, and I'm a longtime journalist and public relations consultant, and I am happy to be here.
Yes, this is going to be very fun and exciting. Like I was just saying before we kind of started our episode, mentorship, big concept. I recently, promoted your blog on mentorship. So amazing, and I was like so grateful at the end when you were like, "And Jillian is my new mentor." I was like, ah. Kind of like fangirling. So I think that the idea of mentorship is very, very sometimes underrated.
Mhm.
I don't think, in my opinion, a lot of people know the power that they have to influence others. And I'd love to learn from you today. So, if you want to talk about a few people that you have mentored or some of the keys to mentorship, just take it away.
Okay. Well, I've been thinking about this a lot lately, not only because of our relationship and the work that we're doing on this podcast and my blog and other things, but also I have a new client who has hired me to essentially do editorial consulting or coaching, if you will, with three or four different new writers. And it has brought back all kinds of wonderful memories about working in newsrooms with as an editor with reporters and kind of coaching their writing along, and also all my years at Chapman and at Cal State Fullerton working with students and interns and that kind of thing. And I'm really enjoying myself. I'm finding out again how demanding it is to review writing and to make suggestions and that kind of thing. But it's gotten me thinking about all the people who played big roles in my life as mentors. There's a lot written about how you should get a mentor and how you should
Mhm.
develop that relationship. And what I found was effective for me was more letting it happen organically.
Mm.
So it wasn't as if I specifically said to myself, okay, I need a female mentor
Mm.
between the ages of 35 and 60 who works at a magazine,
Mm.
and then targeted that person. It was more along the lines of people that I met professionally who then reached out to me and offered to kind of help guide my career. A good example would be Janelle Shearer. She's now retired, but she was my predecessor at Chapman as director of public relations. But more importantly, she was a professor of communications and an expert in PR.
Wow.
And she encouraged me to earn my accreditation in public relations from PRSA, and essentially hired me first to teach a couple of night classes at Chapman when I was still at a PR agency. And then along the lines, when she was trying to coach me to be a better teacher, we had lunch together one time, and I was complaining about my agency job, and she said, well, if you had a perfect job, what would it be? And I thought for a minute, and I said, yours. I want to work at a university. I like the idea of working with students, and I love the idea of working as a PR director for a university. So when she decided Chapman was, growing too fast for her to do it part-time, which is what she was trying to do,
Wow.
juggling professorship with that job, she remembered that, and she knew that I had magazine experience because of my previous work at a boating magazine for a couple of years. And so she knew that I needed magazine experience to be editor of Chapman Magazine. So she ended up hiring me, actually encouraging Jim Doty to hire me. And during that whole 6 years when she was there, she kind of acted as kind of a big sister type mentor about someone that I could go to with issues and concerns, and just really kind of guided my career in terms of the public information aspects of the job working for a university. A lot of times, and you know this, they won't hire you at a university unless you have university experience. So
Right.
it's kind of hard to break in. Everybody wants those jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the whole reason that I was hired without any higher ed experience was because of her. And she just kind of coached me along.
Wow.
So, I mean, that was an example of somebody who's really been integral in my whole life professionally. I first met her when I was her intern when she worked at she was an editor of a magazine here in Orange County. And we kept in touch the whole time that I was in college. And then afterwards, I freelanced for her. And then eventually she ended up having a new career as a professor at Chapman, and we reconnected. So
Wow.
um, that's a good example. Another example of a mentor in my life was a woman at the Orange County Register who kind of took me under her wing. She was on the city desk, and we were both tapped to be part of the first staff that started the community editions of the Register. And this would have been back in like 1984 or so,
Mm.
around in there. And we started the very first community editions together. And she took me aside and took me to lunch one day and said, I'd been complaining about being reassigned to this new project because all I really wanted in those days was to be a daily newspaper reporter. And that's what I was doing. And all of a sudden, I was going to go work on these weeklies.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at it very, myopically, saying, okay, this is a demotion, when
Mm.
in fact she made me see that we were starting a brand new kind of concept of return to community journalism. We were really being pioneers with
Right.
this aspect, and it ended up that she was absolutely right. We were written up in national publications for this whole new idea of going back to community journalism. And but if it wasn't for her, I would have looked at things wrong and not seen it as a career opportunity, which it really ended up being. And it was because of her and her encouragement that I kind of started working with the other writers, and people started coming to me for advice about writing. And that kind of set me on my course of being an editor and kind of a more of an editorial director, which is what
Wow.
I did after that. So those are just two examples. They both happen to be women, but they were very important in my career. And so when I was in a position to start mentoring other people, I was really glad to do it because um, I saw how important it was for my own career, and I wanted to be that helpful to other people. So
Yes.
that's one thing that I've tried to do.
That's so incredible. Yeah, I love hearing I loved reading your blog about how these mentors really made a positive impact on you as an individual. I remember when you were like, I need to write a blog, and it really came through in the writing, which I hope to continue to try to do. But in terms of mentorship, you know, like I was saying, I'm like a new mentor, there I work at Cal State Fullerton, like I've said, and I am for the first time experiencing like the first students that I've had
Mhm,
for years graduate, and it's so emotional. Like,
mhm,
I've created this bond, and I think the one of the craziest things is watching them grow. So for me, I'm very new to this, but they look at me like I
mhm.
have it all together, and sometimes I don't. So
Right.
one of like, one of my questions that I'm really curious about is, like, for you, especially, I've been thinking about this all week, how do you find it in yourself to be a positive mentor, even if you yourself kind of have, like imposter syndrome or insecurity, or like mentally, you're pushing through. Like sometimes I'll look at these students and they look up to me and they like trust me, but like if I'm not, I feel like if I'm not having a good mental health day, like I'm letting them down. But it's like the more I mentor them, the more I mentor myself.
I think that's absolutely true. And it's also true that part of being a mentor is being realistic with other people. So you're not, everybody has imposter syndrome at one time or another. We all do. And there is something to be said for fake it till you make it,
Mhm.
because I really do think that we are capable of much more than we think we are. However, part of being a good mentor is to be honest with the mentee and say, I don't know how I'm going to make it through today. I don't have all the answers. Here are some of the things that I'm struggling with, just so that you know that even when you move forward in your position and you get more responsibility, there's always going to be challenges. And here are some of the challenges I'm facing right now. And I think that that honesty uh, really affects the other person. They rise to the occasion of listening and learning about problems that mentors have. And they realize that, we're all human, we all make mistakes, we all have challenges, and that relationship deepens because of that kind of mutual trust and honesty. Um, I was going to mention in our time together tonight about this tea that I'm having on Sunday for
Oh, yes, let's talk about the tea
it's
party. I told my
yeah.
coworkers and they
So
wanted to do it.
it's called the Hack and Flack tea, and it has been going on for more than 30 years. I hadn't
Wow.
realized how long it had been since Dee Dee started these teas. But then I realized that I was a young mom when they first started, and my kids are all grown now. So I know it's been at least 30 years.
Wow, that's
Anyway, Dee
incredible.
Dee Ginter just recently passed away. She was in her mid 90s when she finally passed. And she was a long time public relations professional here in Orange County. She owned her own agency, and she was a one of the three first female public relations practitioners in Orange County. Until then, that would have been in the 1960s, it was totally male dominated. And
Right.
she, Madeline Zuckerman, and Gloria Ziegner were the first three women who were public relations professionals in Orange County. She started her own agency, I believe, in the late 70s, and earned a ton of PRSA Protos Awards from the Public Relations Society of America's Orange County chapter. She was president of the chapter, and she also earned the Distinguished Service Award, which is the highest award that they give. And she was never actually a direct boss of mine. I took a kind of circuitous route into PR through journalism. And but when I made the switch into PR, she was one of the first people that I called, because I knew that she would understand that it was a new career for me. I was a new mom at the time. I was
Mhm.
making that transition from a newsroom into a PR agency. It was totally different. And she really reached out and kind of reassured me that all my journalism training would stand me in very good stead as a PR professional. But she also recommended that I gain the experience necessary to eventually earn my APR. You have to have 5 years of PR experience before you can even take the test and the classes and everything to become accredited. And so once I hit that 5 year mark, I remembered what she'd said, and I signed up for the classes right away and started studying for it. But somewhere along the lines, it would have been late in the 80s, she decided to have this tea. It was an annual tea. It was always near the anniversary of the suffragette women's right to vote. So it was always in like August or September. I think the date is actually October 10th.
Mhm.
She would open her home in Fullerton, to hacks and flacks. So hacks meaning journalists and flacks meaning PR people, all women. And we'd celebrate, our independence as women voters and that kind of thing. And she was very active in Fullerton politics and the Fullerton community in the arts, and did a lot of pro bono work. But she would open her home. We'd all bring something to the tea, scones or little sandwiches or what have you. And um, we'd all hobnob and talk to each other and kind of network. And then at some point she would call us to order, and she would read little messages of the women who maybe couldn't make it that time.
Mm.
And then she would go around the room and she'd say, Kathy, how is your career going at Cal State Fullerton? How are Ben, Sean, and Emma? And she would remember the names of all three of my kids. She knew exactly what their ages were. So we would talk with each other about, being moms and full-time workers and, all the other issues of that, but also the challenges of being women in a communications career. And we'd just go around the room and everybody would share, and that would be the tea. So when she passed away, it's been 1 or 2 years, and I got with some of the other ladies, and many of us are now retirement age or older. So three of us got together and I said, if you guys will handle the logistics in terms of the food and the RSVPs, I will host the tea. So we're having Dee Dee's daughter, Barbie. She's going to come and talk a little bit about her mother. And then we're all going to share memories of Dee Dee at this particular tea. And then we're hoping that we'll continue it every year afterwards. The only people invited on Sunday are the people who knew Dee Dee. But I think in successive years, whoever hosts the tea will invite people like you and people who are in journalism, PR, who are females who might want to join this little support group that we have going. But I thought it was important the first year for people who knew Dee Dee to be here. So that's going to happen on Sunday. I'm very excited about it. I've been, I redid my bathroom, and I'm,
Ooh.
sprucing up the yards, and, as unfortunately, we're only going to have about 10 people, I think. In some years we've had up to 20, but those 10 people will really, find it very meaningful to be here, I think. So
I absolutely agree. Like, this is going to be for Dee Dee, it feels like. What a strong, incredible woman.
yeah, she was really quite the lady.
And that's just the memory. I mean, as you're talking about her and she remembers all your children's names and ages, I mean, it takes that level of care to really, I mean, just that literally just that level of care, to be that change in someone's life that could, inspire them to do exactly what they want, or, to really just, look up. The ability to look up to someone is so great because, on those really rough days, you can think of Dee Dee. And like the fact that you all have this, so like I love the fact that this tea party even exists. Like
Right.
it feels very new, so I mean, I can only imagine, the conversations there. Just, I mean, the accomplishments. I mean, kudos to you and everybody that's
Well,
going.
she was a great
Yeah.
lady in that she was always available, if you wanted to give her a call and ask about a particular issue that you were having. And she was very supportive. But I think more than anything else, when the rest of us kind of looked at her, we saw a woman who kind of pioneered in the industry, but she was able to have a happy marriage and raise kids and have a business and be active in the community and have friends. She had it all, and she worked really hard to have it. But she had a very full and wonderful personal life, as well as a really strong, enviable professional life as well. And it was people like that that made me happy about my choices in life, because it was really important to me to have a strong marriage and kids, and and it's not always easy. So it's nice to have somebody to look up to who's able to have all that and juggle it all.
Yeah, make it seem realistic, right?
Right.
Because I think sometimes it just takes someone else being their best to, like I said, inspire others.
Mhm.
Um, do you think a question that's been on my mind is, do you think that everybody can be a mentor?
That's a great question. Probably not.
And like, can't does everybody have the potential? Maybe, but
Maybe, but I don't think that many people. I don't want to be self-congratulatory
this is our
saying this, but
your podcast.
what
This is
I
the
what,
perfect
what
place.
I'm thinking of is there are lots of people who are very good at what they do, who don't have a either the patience or want to take the time out to really help someone else. Now, they might be very friendly, wonderful people, but they want to do their job and then they want to go home.
Hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Uh, Mentorship takes time and it takes energy, and it does take extra effort beyond what your job description is. You know,
Right.
um, all of my mentors mentored me outside of the job requirements that they were fulfilling. They were doing it out of the kindness of their heart. They wanted to give back to the profession. They wanted to see the next generation achieve excellence. I want all those things too. And sometimes it's really exhausting, to try to help someone else when you're um, trying to do everything, in your own life. So probably everyone has the capability. It's whether they really have the willingness to do it. Um,
Mm.
and sometimes I have heard of other people who have approached professionals and said, "Hey, I'd really like for you to be my mentor," only to be turned down for many reasons,
Hmm.
and it doesn't mean that they're a terrible person. It just
Right.
means that maybe they're realistic in looking at themselves and knowing that they really don't have the bandwidth
Right.
to share themselves with others in that way. I also think that it involves a certain amount of teaching skill, and many people are not really good at teaching. They're good at doing,
Takes
but
another skill.
they're not good at teaching. And I think that when I think of some of my friends in journalism who have made it, many, many decades in journalism, they do what they do. They're not doing anything outside of what they do. And so
Right.
I couldn't necessarily say that they would be the best mentors, because
Mhm.
they're very self-involved in what they're doing. Um, and some people just aren't any good at it. I mean, some people
Yeah.
are better and have more patience, and you know um, they kind of take to it. But I think I had really good trainers, um, in terms of learning to mentor others. When I took the reins at Chapman, Janelle had established a class that was it was required of all PR majors to spend a semester in the PR office at Chapman. So essentially, I had students coming in
Yeah.
every semester who would work a certain number of hours a week. They would write news releases, they'd help at events, they'd answer phones, do all kinds of PR related
Mhm.
tasks. And because of that influx of students, I mean, you kind of had to learn to teach them. So it was learning on the job. And she
Mhm.
was a great influence in how she's a very creative, wonderful teacher. So that kind of rubbed off on me because it had to. I mean, I had these people, I had to do something with them.
Hmm.
And I still remember there were a couple people who really resented it. I'm giving you free labor, you should be paying me for this. I said, no, this is on the job experience. You are getting a firsthand look at what it's like to work at what is
Hmm.
essentially an in-house agency. And I even had a couple of people who said, look, I chose PR as a major. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and I've decided I don't want to do this.
Mm.
So for those people, I would just take them aside and say, look, I totally respect your decision, but you're a junior now, you're a senior now, you've made your bed. Now you're going to be a PR major, whether you like it or not.
Right.
You're here for a semester, but if you can learn to write well and research well, that will stand you in good stead, whatever profession you decide to pursue. You will become somebody who is very valuable to your employer no matter where you go. And I still believe that. I think, writing is a very basic skill that a lot of people don't have. So,
That is so interesting that you say that. I completely agree with, um, having the patience. That's definitely been key for me, right? Because you get to see people grow, and that's rewarding for me. But who also told me that you can really get get anywhere if you are a good writer is Mike Mahi,
mhm,
which is funny because you worked with him, and he talks about how you mentored him,
mhm.
and now he's mentoring me, which is,
Right, right.
I mean, it's crazy to me that
Yeah,
that really what the mentee takes, just they it's like it just carries on. So for generations to come, I'm sure, like at this tea party on Sunday, sharing that wise words of
right.
just being able
When I
to.
look back at my career and I think about all the people that I hired when I was at the agency, or people that I worked with as interns, there's one in particular, a woman who we hired with very little experience. She had some news experience at a TV station,
Mhm.
and she came in as a very junior person, and but just had this drive to learn not only about writing and all of that, but the whole business of public relations. And today she has an agency that is doing millions of dollars a year in business.
Wow.
She's she's got a whole staff, and I remember her when, and I'm really proud to have had a very small part in her career. And there's many people like that I could point to that are successful, and now are paying it forward, to the
Right.
next generation of professionals.
Yeah, it's definitely a two-way street. I think sometimes in my situations, I think, oh, I have so much to learn. And then in other situations, I'm like, I have so much to teach, right? So it's so great to.
And don't you find too that you are learning from your mentees just as much as they are learning from you?
Absolutely. I mean, just the ability to be able to communicate verbally with someone and to have people be their best selves is,
Mhm.
so bizarre to me. And the fact that I'm learning so much isn't bizarre. I see it come full circle now, and I'm it's more rewarding to learn from them actually than it is for, I don't know how to describe it. It's wonderful to see them succeed, and like you said, pay it forward. I think that's key right there. Um, I was also thinking of this question. How can someone become, in your opinion, a better mentor to someone? How can, like, what
I
are
think
some
the
steps?
main thing is availability. I think of late night phone calls, to from or to uh,
Hmm.
someone who really needs to talk about an issue at work, or what it's like to be a woman in the workplace,
Hmm.
or how to juggle family, home, and job. um I think that just time is uh the greatest commodity that we have. And um having the willingness to take a few minutes out of your busy life and help somebody else, or just have a conversation.
Right.
And like I said, I think I learn as much from people that I've mentored as they have learned from me. And that openness to just spend a few minutes with someone is, I think, what makes the mentor relationship work, and what makes it valuable. Because everybody is so short on time. And
Hmm.
if you work at a PR agency, you bill in 15-minute increments. So you learn, very, very quickly the value of time. So you know how valuable it is to take 15 minutes out and talk to somebody. Um,
Right.
that isn't going to be part of your billable hours, but is going to pay off, in many ways, immediately and long term.
Right. Time, that, and
Mhm.
that's so key, and time is the greatest commodity we have. My gosh, that I just want to ingrain that, on it's so true, because it's not money, it's not awards, it's literally being transparent and authentic, and taking the time and spending the time.
Mhm.
Yesterday, so I have this now friend who just graduated college. She was a student assistant with me doing social media, and she was doing it for 3 years, right? 3 years out of her 4 year college experience. So we were together a lot. We learned together, struggling through challenges in social media, trying to keep up with trends, or,
Mhm.
analytics or metrics. And, we just kind of had this bond of mentorship,
Mhm.
and she I trusted her. I've had a lot of all of my students that have worked with me in Stratcom, I fully trust, and we create that relationship. But she was so driven, like you were saying, so driven. She was a journalism major. That person that goes above and beyond
Mhm.
is the person that I want to be working with and friends with.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, I could be like, "Can you handle this?" And she would say, I got you. Don't worry." And to have someone reassure you like that is excellent. And it's just that was a new feeling for me. Being able to trust the mentees that are now reassuring you. You
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
so she called me yesterday. She said, "Hey, can I chat?" So the fact that you bring that up, the timing is perfect, because she said, "I'd love to pick your brain." And that is like one of the best compliments I feel like someone could give me, because they value my opinion, just like how I value
Exactly.
your opinion.
Right.
And she was basically saying, "Well, I have this job interview, but it's freelance and I've never done that." And I said, "I'm new to client work as well. I'm new, I'm learning." And I said, "We're in the same boat now. I said, now that you graduated, this is it.
Mhm.
This is what you worked so hard for." And she was like, in this moment of like, I can't believe it. She had like an aha. I feel like I literally watched her realize that she's now living in Hollywood, and she's like, "I'm exactly where I wanted to be." She's doing PA work with different agencies, still just working her best. And she, along with other people, made me realize, first my dad, that you can't teach effort.
Mhm.
That's the
Right.
one thing that you cannot teach.
Right.
And I feel very similar to that individual that you said was very junior writer, very new and green, because my expertise is different,
Mhm.
in
Mhm.
definitely in social media trends and influencer relationships and things like that. So it's good, it's great to hear those success stories and know that there are people that put forth the effort to learn themselves, but to also put forth the effort and availability for other people. And I think that just comes back to kindness,
Mhm.
like, I mean, at the end of the day, taking that time is the ultimate sign of appreciation. So
Right.
thank
Well, I
you
think
for your time, Kathy. I love our chats.
well, you hit it on the head when you said that you were you were excited to be asked for
Right.
your thoughts. And what I found in my career is that when you reach out and ask for someone's expertise, they really appreciate the opportunity to share it with you.
Hmm.
And in very seldom have I ever been turned away for uh, for instance, when I was starting my own business, I knew nothing about, you know, um, any kind of uh, like infrastructure that I would need. And I had several senior people who had their own agencies sit down with me over lunch or breakfast or coffee and just say, here are the forms that I use for my contracts. Here's what I use for my timesheets. This is what you might want to consider for, keeping records.
Hmm.
And they were willing to like bend over backwards and give me all kinds of free advice in when I was first starting out. And I really, I still remember all of them that I sat down with and how giving they were about and encouraging. You can do this. If I can do this, you can do this. And
Hmm.
um, they were very open about sharing their experiences, good and bad. And I think that they really appreciated being asked, but I really appreciated the fact that they took time, you know, to speak with me.
Absolutely. Time is so about I talked to
Mhm.
her on the phone for an hour,
Mhm.
and
She's always going to remember that too.
I'm not gonna cry. I'm at this, she's so incredible. Like, I don't think I would be who I am without them,
Mhm.
you know? Like, it's
Right.
it's such a
Right.
blessing, I would say.
Yes.
Absolutely a blessing. I mean,
Yes.
I am so I feel like mentorship could be like a three-part series, like, mentorship. What I mean is, do you think there's anything that as a mentor you should avoid? Like, how do you not burn yourself out and also be available?
I think knowing your limits is really
Mhm.
important.
Mhm.
And I speak from experience of not knowing my limits a lot of the time still. I'm still trying to learn that I'm not 25 anymore. Um, my family's always trying to rein me in and sit down and relax and, take it easy.
We sound so
Um,
similar, Kathy.
but I think it's very you do have to know when you don't have enough bandwidth to help someone else. And you have to be honest about it and say, I can't help you right now, but if we could talk on the weekend, or if we could talk tomorrow night instead of tonight,
Mhm.
or would you be open to just having a quick conversation via text or email?
Mhm.
Or I mean, there are all kinds of ways that you can squeeze in assisting someone else, but you have to be honest with yourself, and that you have to have your priorities straight. Yes, you want to help other people and you want to be um, a mentor to others, but you also have to be realistic, and there are only so many hours in the day, and you have other responsibilities that actually come first. I mean, your job and your family, and
Mhm.
those things come first, so you have to be honest about it. I'm sure there have been times when I've let people down who wanted my help. I tried not to. I tried to give them other alternatives, but just realistically speaking, there are only 24 hours in a day. So
Right. You can't pour from an empty glass, they say. I struggle with that too. I love to work. I so similar in the sense of my family's always trying to reel me in and stay realistic, don't overdo it, don't burn the candle at both ends, as my dad
Right,
says.
right.
So I often find myself telling the things I would say to my mentees what I have to say to myself,
Hmm.
because I talk a lot about, priorities and, you know, similar to what you're saying about keeping your family, your health a priority. And I tell my mentees, be your own advocate, because only you really know what you need.
Hmm.
And yeah, like I've said, they've taught me so much. I've learned so much from you. We're only in our second podcast, and I see bright things for this podcast.
It's really a delicate balance, I
Yeah.
think, between you want to, you have to take care of yourself. You have to be cognizant of your health and that kind of thing. And I think at the same time, I remember my first journalism professors telling me it's not going to be good enough that you're a good writer or even that you have experience as a journalist in professional newsrooms. By the time you graduate, it's going to, a lot of what your success is going to rest on is how driven you are to really be successful. And part of that is seeking out mentors. Part of it is going the extra mile and working harder than anybody else. And part of it is dedication. But you can't have any of those things if you don't have your health. So it's that, delicate balance of, you know, uh, trying to be healthy and still successful.
Yes, that should be. I feel like that should be our one of our next podcasts is work life balance. How to take care of yourself and be successful. That's, I definitely struggle with
Everyone
it.
struggles with it.
I know. It's so funny. Like, I think being honest with your mentees, like you said, brings that level of vulnerability and trust. And one of my students one time was like, Jill, does it get any easier or better? I know. And I went, do you want the truth? No, it doesn't get easier. And, she was like, but I was like, but you learn and you grow. And some days I feel like I don't know anything, but
Mhm.
then I realize that I do. And then I have that self talk of, you can do it. Kathy believes in you. Mahi believes in you. Your students believe in you. You believe in you.
Mhm.
So,
Right.
I love seeing people mentor in every field,
Mhm.
um, it's just incredible. So I really appreciate you sitting with me and mentoring me and taking
Sure.
time. I love doing this podcast and I'm so excited to continue more. So
Me too.
is there anything else you'd like to add about mentorship? It's so incredible. Such a great concept. And if you can do it right, changing lives for sure.
Yes. Well, it's all about relationships, and I think mentorship, like networking, is always based on relationships, and relationships require a lot from us. They're not easy. So, but they're also very rewarding.
That's Couldn't have said it better myself. Well, thanks for joining us on this week's podcast to chat about journalism everywhere and in the writing world, and especially today's topic of mentorship. Be sure to stay tuned, follow us for more fun, and thank you again, Kathy, for this venture into podcasts and our YouTube channel. So great to share this information. So, thanks, everyone.
Great. Thank you.